Imagine where a Russian spy aircraft is flying menacingly close to a US aircraft carrier. What are the crew's immediate reactions? How does the US Navy react? And what are the wider consequences of such encounters? To grasp the gravity of this confrontation, one has to decipher the meaning of the characters involved. This is true the US aircraft carrier, a floating fortress, thus symbolizes a key part of the American force. These colossal vessels are engineered to project power, preserve peace, and respond promptly to global threats. With thousands of personnel on board and an air capability that can attack targets hundreds of miles away. The aircraft carrier is the centerpiece of the US Navy's tactical strategy. These ships are facilities of contemporary naval engineering, equipped with the latest radar and defensive weapons, and capabilities of taking on and launching a wide variety of aircraft, including fighters and reconnaissance drones. On the other hand, the Russian spy plane, which is perceived as an intelligence-gathering aircraft, is just as necessary. These planes are fitted with cutting-edge surveillance equipment capable of intercepting communications, tracking movements, and collecting invaluable data. These aircraft can soar at high altitudes and are loaded with sensors, cameras, and other intelligence-gathering instruments. The specific model of the spy plane can vary, but common examples include the Ilyushin IL-20M or the Tu-214R, both designed for electronic surveillance and reconnaissance missions. The sophisticated technology aboard these planes enables them to amass a wealth of information, from radar signals to communications traffic, providing valuable insights into the operations of adversary forces. Why would a Russian reconnaissance aircraft dare to venture near a US aircraft carrier? What are the risks and potential gains or losses for each side? The answer lies in the high-stakes game of intelligence and counterintelligence that both nations engage in. Each side is perpetually striving to comprehend the other's capabilities and intentions. For the Russians, flying near a US carrier can provide crucial information about its movements, operational procedures, and even the electromagnetic emissions it generates. For the US, intercepting and monitoring a spy plane can expose the methods and technologies employed by Russian intelligence, offering insights into their priorities and strategies. The situation started as a small, unassuming dot on the radar screen. The radar operator on the deck of the aircraft carrier notices a blip on the outermost circumference, sometimes hundreds of miles, outside the radius where a potential enemy is likely to go before posing a direct threat. The operator's screen is filled with the signature of an incoming object, yet the oncoming aircraft's identification is kept concealed. The operator's training comes into play, and they adhere to a strict protocol to evaluate and respond to the potential threat. Upon spotting an unidentified aircraft, a strict protocol is enacted. Initially, the radar operator attempts to identify it through the transponder code. If it's not broadcasting one, that's a cause for concern. The operator then promptly informs the chain of command. The captain is alerted, and a series of swift decisions are made. Jets are scrambled, and defensive measures are heightened. The carrier's escorts, including destroyers and cruisers, assume their positions, ready to counter any potential threat. The tension is tangible as the crew braces for a possible confrontation. The radar room transforms into a hive of activity. Technicians and analysts collaborate to track the aircraft's movements and accumulate as much information as possible. They employ advanced software to analyze the aircraft's flight path, speed, and altitude, searching for hints that might reveal its intentions. At the same time, the captain is also discussing the action contingency with his or her commanding officers and probably making decisions as to what should be done. As the United States fighter jets start to take off into the air, the Russian reconnaissance aircraft stays on course and even seems not to notice, or maybe it does not care about the developing events on the ground. This is where the actual cat-and-mouse game begins. The fighter pilots are briefed on their mission: find out, follow, and if required, intercept the upping aircraft. They know how their every move will be under observation, not only by their own command, but also by the Russian pilots and intelligence officers on board the spy plane. What do you think the outcome would have been if the Russian pilots had exhibited more aggression? What could the potential repercussions have been? Share your thoughts in the comments. Once the jets are in the air, they proceed to intercept the incoming aircraft. Their mission is to identify, shadow, and engage if necessary. As they draw near, they visually confirm the aircraft's identity, a Russian spy plane. The main tasks of the fighter pilots are to close in range to visually recognize the aircraft and ensure the enemy is aware of their presence. It can always be described as one of the famous games of cat and mouse. The Russian plane knows that it is being monitored, and in return, the US jets are conscious of the Russian aircraft. At its core, it is about sending a message. The Russian plane, equipped with advanced surveillance technology, is likely collecting data on the carrier's movements, communication frequencies, and other operational specifics. The presence of the US jets sends a clear message: we see you, and we're prepared to act if necessary. The pilots maintain a tight formation with the spy plane, using their sophisticated communication systems to relay real-time information back to the carrier. This constant stream of data assists the carrier's crew in understanding the spy plane's capabilities and intentions. Such encounters are not as uncommon as one might assume. In fact, they are part of a broader strategy known as a show of force. Both the US and Russia have protocols in place to manage these situations, often designed to prevent escalation while still gathering intelligence and asserting dominance. The rules of engagement are explicit. Both sides are aware of the boundaries. The US jets will shadow the spy plane, keeping it at a distance where it cannot gather detailed intelligence, but close enough to ensure it doesn't pose an immediate threat. These encounters are a delicate balance of military power and diplomatic signaling. Both sides are constantly attempting to maintain the upper hand without going as far as an open war. While the rules of engagement mean that the acts do not degenerate into full-blown conflict, the stakes are always worth the risk. Both sides also understand the need to regulate interactions and ensure that there are no accidents or miscommunications that can lead to harm. The US Navy pilots are extensively trained in these scenarios, ensuring that they can respond quickly and effectively to any unexpected maneuvers by the spy plane. But what does this signify in a wider perspective? Such encounters are not standalone events, but pieces of a larger geopolitical puzzle. They serve as a means for nations to gather intelligence, test responses, and convey political messages. When a Russian spy plane comes near a US aircraft carrier, it's for the same reason of gaining intelligence as well as conveying a message. It is a way through which Russia seeks to establish dominance and through which the United States can show preparedness for the defense of its interests. What are your thoughts? Are these interactions between military powers necessary for maintaining peace, or do they heighten the risk of conflict? Please share your views in the comments below. Every interaction is a true measure of willpower, preparedness, and capacity, where no side lacks the desire to dominate the other. The information collected by the Russian spy plane will improve their knowledge of US military action. On the other hand, the US gets a window into how Russia conducts surveillance. It further implies that this cycle of intelligence gathering and analysis helps both nations to fine-tune their strategies and position themselves properly for future confrontation. Now, it is essential to further pinpoint the dynamics of the aircraft carrier during such a scenario. Like a machine, the crew performs its tasks, and each member has a tremendous impact or contributes significantly. The radar operators, the maintenance crew, the cooks and waiting staff, missile raisers and trailers, and the flight deck crew are all adept and highly professional. Among them, the flight deck full of jets waiting for their turn to take off and pilots clad in flash gear for possible combats. Below decks, intelligence officers analyze data, and communication teams ensure secure and efficient command lines. The carrier is a self-reliant city at sea, capable of sustaining operations for extended periods without external support. The coordination required to launch and recover jets, manage radar and surveillance systems, and maintain communication with other ships in the carrier strike group is immense. Every crew member is vital to the successful operation of the carrier. As the US jets continue to shadow the Russian spy plane, a series of strategic moves unfold. The objective is to steer the plane away without escalating the situation into a direct conflict. The presence of US jets serves as a deterrent. The Russian plane is aware it's being observed and that any aggressive action would be met with a swift response. Often, this is enough to make them retreat, and indeed, the Russian plane eventually withdraws, its mission incomplete. The US jets return to the carrier, and the immediate threat is over, but the vigilance persists. The carrier resumes its operations, but the crew remains on high alert for any further intrusions. The successful deterrence of the spy plane is a testament to the training, readiness, and strategic planning of the U.S. Navy. Each member of the crew has contributed to ensuring the safety and security of the carrier and its mission. Each encounter is a learning opportunity. Such high-stakes games of cat and mouse are a reminder of the complex dynamics of power in the current world. It demonstrates the preparedness and standards of the U.S. Navy and highlights the need to always be alert to keep the seas safe. But what makes us forget that the human factor is involved here? All of these interactions are more than experiments with various technologies and strategies, but with human abilities and decision-making. These radar operators, pilots, and intelligence officers are qualified and experienced employees, but at the same time, they are not only workers, but employees with their own biography, experiences, and desires. For example, one can imagine the radar operator who first picked the spy plane. They could be a young sailor, fresh from training, facing their first real-world test. Their ability to stay calm and adhere to protocol is vital. Or think about the lead pilot of the intercept mission, a seasoned aviator with countless flight hours, who must make split-second decisions that could have far-reaching implications. These individuals are supported by a huge and complex network that has militated powerfully in their favor. The maintenance crews prepare the jets for immediate use, the logisticians coordinate supply chains to support the carrier, and the medical personnel are needed in the event of an emergency. Each of these positions is necessary for the functioning of the mentioned carrier and for maintaining the safety of the crew. In the aftermath of the encounter, the debriefing process commences. Pilots and radar operators review their actions, discussing what went well and what could be improved. This ongoing learning process ensures that the crew is always prepared for the next challenge. The data collected during the encounter is analyzed in detail. Intelligence officers look for patterns, trying to understand the broader strategic goals of the Russian mission. This information is incorporated into larger intelligence systems, where it is consolidated with information from other sources to develop detailed information regarding Russian actions and goals. In parallel with this, diplomatic processes are set in motion. An encounter is stated to superior officers and to politicians who in turn use the occurrence in planning their actions and policies. In some cases, protests are made diplomatically, or conversations are conducted to avoid the occurrence of similar events in the future. But while the direct danger is gone, the general framework remains. Regarding this aspect, the encounter is a shared reminder of the conflict between great powers and the need to remain prepared and alert all the time. This raises the issue of sustained commitment to capability building, which includes training and technology, as well as international diplomacy, in order to avoid any occurrence of such encounters proceeding to a point of conflict. So, what transpires when a Russian spy plane flies near a U.S. aircraft carrier? A complex interplay of strategy, technology, and human skill unfolds. It's a high-stakes game where every move is calculated, and the stakes are global. Such interactions call to mind the dynamics of the power struggle and the importance of being aware of one's position in this struggle. And thus, each day, these modern-looking ships stand as the silent guardians of the seas while technology progresses and geopolitics dynamics evolve. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the thrilling world of naval combat. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to ring the notification bell for more Navy content. Click on the next video to keep the adventure going.